Jarrett, we could probably stand to put a few more books up there.
It's funny you say that. They're actually all over here to my right. I do.
Okay.
But I got the football stuff here, the playbooks and stuff. So I'm trying to somewhat organized.
Man, congratulations on all your success. You just signed a new contract. The numbers in the preseason have been off the charts. In fact, a lot of preseason backup quarterbacks, you kind of have to keep playing, and you're like, really? Now that you solidified your spot and you did so well, they're like, okay, Jarrett, you can rest a little bit because you put up huge numbers. So congratulations on all your success. Not that Sean Payton ever lets anybody relax, but to throw for, over 400 yards or whatever it is and 4 touchdowns in the preseason. Is this the best? Obviously, you want to be in the games, the real games and all of that. But in terms of a preseason that you've been a part of, is this the best you've ever felt?
It is. I would definitely say this is the best that I have felt probably in my career. Honestly, probably going back to probably my first year at Auburn back at 17. So, one of those things where I think it's a lot to do with, off-season training and that sort of thing. Just trying to get ready for the season. And then once you go into OTAs, training camp, all that sort of stuff, just try to hit your stride at the right moment. And, luckily been able to go out there and play some football and, score some points. So it's been a lot of fun.
Great. What is, I know Sean Payton, I've known him for a long time, and I'd be careful bringing my name up, the Mosley name. I'm not sure exactly what reaction you would get, but being around him, he is a quarterback guru. He had the incredible time with Breeze. He didn't always get credited for this. He's actually had a huge role in why Romo came to the Cowboys. Yeah. And of course, they were both at Eastern Illinois. On one hand, I'm sure there's a lot of quarterback things you can learn from him, but he's also kind of a funny, interesting guy. And whether he's hanging out with Kenny Chesney or all of that, what's that been like being around Sean Payton? And what's the biggest thing that he's helped you with, like as you continue to kind of add to your arsenal and continue to improve as a quarterback?
Yeah, obviously, I think like you touched on with Drew Brees all those years in New Orleans, and like you said with Romo back in Dallas, there's been a lot to just kind of pick up from his standpoint from over the years. We could go kind of X's and O's all we want, but I think honestly one of the big things, one of the cooler things about him is just his ability to establish a culture. And obviously, he did it, in New Orleans right after Hurricane Katrina, and whenever that organization, that city needed that, and then coming here to Denver, he's kind of done the same thing. We went 10 years without making the playoffs, made the playoffs last year, and he sets up a really great culture with guys that want to work hard, that want to be there, and that don't take shortcuts. And honestly, I've been very fortunate, obviously, to play for Bill Belichick, there in New England, and now Sean, here in Denver. And I'm very blessed. I'm very fortunate. I've been around, 2 Hall of Fame head coaches, and then played, behind some incredible quarterbacks that obviously will be in the Hall of Fame. So there, like I said, there's a lot X's and O's that I could go into, but I think establishing a culture, coming into a new place is one of the bigger things, and one of the things that I've really enjoyed, getting to be a part of that here in Denver with Sean.
All right. Knowing Bill Belichick and being around him now that he's coming into the college game, Jarrett, that has to be kind of surreal for you to watch. And you've had him better than almost all of us and have been around him. Is football like, and also obviously some of the off the field stuff, I'm sure like a lot of us, you're kind of like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe these have become such huge stories. But just from a football standpoint, how do you think that's going to go at UNC? And do you find yourself, you got to focus on Broncos right now, but will you be way more dialed into UNC than you would have ever been previously?
Absolutely. I will be dialed into to Tar Heel football for sure. obviously played for Bill, and then his son Steve, who's the defense coordinator there. Steve's a very, very close friend of mine. Him and his wife and their kids, we've gotten to know super well in the last 6-7 years. Their chief of staff, a guy named Chris Mattis, also another one of my closest friends in the world. So I've got some skin in the game with UNC, and I'm very excited to see how that goes. As far as Bill and how it'll go, obviously I don't know. I'm just as anxious, as everybody else to see how it ends up unfolding. But I will say one thing: if you play football, at North Carolina, you're going to be very prepared. You're going to know the opponent in and out, and obviously there's a little bit different time constraints, so to speak, with class and stuff like that in college versus the pros. But the thing I always appreciated about Bill was you never went into a week not knowing who your opponent is, what they were good at, what they were bad at, how were you going to attack that team. It's one of again, I could go on and on about the stuff I learned from Bill, situational football, just being very well prepared every single week. I'm excited to see it.
Okay, so we can't. I don't know if you're going to be able to make it into Waco, your old stomping grounds. I'm not sure when the last time you swung through town, but people would obviously love to see you. Do you get a kick out of the fact that some people are referring to this as the Stidham Bowl? You have we're hearing some of that. We obviously wanted to see more of you than we got to. In fact, when I see some of your highlights with Denver and others in New England before that, I always am like, dang it. Like, I wanted to see how that was going to play out. And obviously you went on and had a really good career with Auburn, and we know which way you'll be leaning in this thing. Although you're from Texas, you may still have a little love for the people in Waco. What's it going to be like watching that on Friday night, knowing that you're involved with both programs and have a lot of friends from both sides? Yeah,
it's obviously it's going to be exciting. Little house divided here because my wife obviously played soccer at Baylor. That's how we met. And obviously I ended up going to Auburn. So a little bit of house divided. I'm going to try to get the kids on my side on Friday night for the game. That way they know, put my daughter in her Auburn dress. But no, it's super exciting. Obviously, have roots in both places and stuff like that. So I'm very anxious to see how it goes. And obviously I know Sawyer really well there at Baylor, and he obviously had a great year last year. So I'm really looking forward to see how he plays this year. And then on the Auburn side of things, Jackson Arnold coming in, seeing how he plays, how he adapts to, playing at Auburn. It's just different than OU. So, and we have a lot of playmakers, on the offensive side of the ball. So I'm excited what Hugh, can dial up on Friday night. And, I'm hoping for a great game. First week, you always want it to be a good one. So, hopefully we get that.
Hugh needs to stop turning in his golf scores. I mean, it's one of the strangest things, Jarrett. I'm like, it's on one hand, it's kind of honorable that he wants to have an accurate handicap because you don't like people showing up at scrambles and cheating. Right. But I was just like, why are you opening yourself up to this? Because it's not like he doesn't work hard. And we all need a release. I'm sure you played around to tour golf or fish or whatever. But if you're a head coach in the SEC and it starts going around that you're playing a lot of golf, it's going to come back on you. And Lane Kiffin and others are going to get a hold of that, right? So I think the lesson here is not to like stop playing golf. It's like you don't have to turn every round in. Don't you think?
I do appreciate that. I mean, when it gets close to the season, hopefully we're winning a lot of games. I've been around guys that do play golf through the season. Personally, I do not. I put the sticks up. Like when I go to training camp, my stuff's still back home there in Texas in Fort Worth. So I don't want to have the temptation of going out and playing during the season once it starts. So. But shoot, I mean, it's like I said, it's honorable that he's trying to have an accurate handicap. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it works.
All right. So Auburn has a little bit been out in the wilderness even since you left. And I guess Bo just kind of follows you around, obviously, but like when you look at it and you talk to your buddies who love the program and everything, like this seems to be a huge. I mean, even just this game for Hugh Freeze and to set the tone, this is monstrous. Like, what do you think is the biggest reason it's been a struggle? And maybe it's recruiting. I don't know. I would not have thought Auburn would have struggled with NIL because obviously their alums love their Tigers, love War Eagle as much as the Bama people love their team. What do you think's been the biggest issue? And have you heard or seen signs that maybe Auburn's doing some things to maybe get back to what they're known for? And by the way, did you know y'all have won some more national titles now? We've had they made that announcement in the past week.
I didn't see that. What was that? Like when was that? Way back in the day, right? It just somehow came back up. I don't know.
Well, I think our old friend Tuberville had something to do with it. And one of those, the Auburn could not play in postseason. And I think they went undefeated. So I think they're claiming one on that one. And then they've added a few through the years. And today, by the way, I'm claiming a 1924 Baylor national title. They only went 7-2-1 that year, but I think it was a good year and they won the conference title. Yeah.
I like it. No, I think, back whenever I was in school, we had some success there. And then, Bo came in right after me, and I want to say his freshman year, they played well. And then, it's kind of teetered off since. And look, I don't know if you can point to one thing or one person. I think, football's too hard just to point at, one certain person or one certain thing. But I think it's just a combination of things. Obviously, I would say, maybe selfishly, I would say that Auburn is, a top 15 program in the country, holistically. And I would say whenever you can get the right people in there, whether it's, and obviously it starts with the head coach, and then trickles down to the players and starts with the quarterback. If you can have a good head coach and a good quarterback, just like a lot of these schools, if you want to talk about University of Texas or Ohio State or Oregon or Penn State, like you can go on and on, Alabama, Georgia, like if you can have the right guy leading the team, from the head coach's spot, and then the right guy leading the team from the quarterback spot, you'll have some success. And so I think it's just trying to find, the combination. Obviously, we've been through some head coaches, since I was there, and just trying to find a good continuity between those two things. I think, especially at the college level, I mean, those two are the most important people, in an organization, so to speak. And then with NIL, like you said, I mean, I feel like Auburn doesn't have an issue with the NIL side of things. So, like I said, I think that's where it really boils down to. It's just trying to find the right match made in heaven between those two, and hopefully we have that this year.
All right, I hope Auburn can handle the blackout, the chrome helmets bringing out pretty much everything, whole new uniform. And so, as you know, some of that stuff from that era, I think Baylor was a little reluctant to go back to. And then at some point it's occurred to them, well, wait, the students, everybody was having a lot of fun back then, right? We were winning a lot of games. So maybe some of that stuff we could try again. Do you remember putting on you wore the chrome helmets, didn't you, at some point? Those shiny ones with the all black, the anthracite.
I'm trying to think. I know my freshman year we had a blackout against OU, but we went all black. We went black helmets, black uniform, the whole thing. The chrome one, I know I wore it. I don't know exactly when that was, but yeah, I mean, obviously that was a great time in Baylor football, and obviously the whole university was behind it, and I know the students loved, some of those games, some of the blackout games and those sort of things, strike the stadium, all that kind of stuff. So, I have very fond memories of some of those.
Yeah. By the way, you were such a huge recruit at Baylor, and you were in that first wave of when it wasn't like, oh, they're just beating people up with their scheme. Now they're starting to get players. And some of my tech buddies are still mad at you, because you were going to tech at one point. And they're like, oh my gosh, how did y'all end up with Jarrett or whatever? Do you ever find yourself daydreaming, and maybe you're more well adjusted than most Baylor fans, but like thinking what that team that y'all are in the midst of putting together, and there was one big time recruiting class on the way. Where do you think that was headed? Because y'all were already competing for a playoff, and they should have had a playoff in 2014 spot. And then as you came in there, where do you think that program was headed at the time?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I would say, 8-9 years ago, I thought a lot more about this. As time has gone on. But I tell people, and this is just my own opinion, so who knows if it would have happened or what happened. But, at that point, kind of where we were, I believe it was 13, 14, they went back to back. And then 15, my freshman year, we started off 6-7-0. Seth Russell got hurt. I came in, played well. I got hurt. And then, we finished the season maybe 10-4, something along those lines. And I think personally, what OU became with Lincoln, and Baker was obviously there, and then Kyler Murray, and then Jalen Hurts. Like, I think that was kind of that's what I saw us as about to become, was kind of that same trajectory that OU was on. And obviously they kind of ran with the Big 12 there for many years. And, I really do believe, if everything would have stayed the same, then, we had great recruiting classes coming in, in 16 and 17. I thought we were about to hit our stride really in 16, and then just keep pushing along. And, back then, I mean, we were one of the hot spots, to come, and especially in the state of Texas, you felt like, you're competing with UT, A&M to get the best recruits, in the best football state in the country. And, that's how I feel. Again, everything happens for a reason, and, it all ended up working out. But, I was super excited at the time to be a part of it.
Well, and by the way, Scotty, did you have something for Jarrett? Because I would hate to short you if you wanted to run it. I've loved talking to Jarrett. I know we need to let him get back to his thing, but Scotty, jump in here if you had anything for Jarrett. I was kind of curious about what Jarrett's telling his buddies that are coming in for this game, like what he's told them to do, if he's given them any advice. Or
that's a good question. That's a good question.
Yeah. But Scotty, have at it, man, because I was so excited that you were able to track down Jarrett, and I was hoping we could get him to Waco for the Stidham Bowl, and we could have even maybe recognized him before the game. And
I don't know about that. I will say we were going to come down. We were going to come down this week because this is our last off weekend before the season starts.
Yeah.
Next week, but my wife is 31, 32 weeks pregnant. So it's just kind of a lot, with her and then the kids and stuff. It was just kind of a lot to do, on short notice. But we would have been down there probably had she not, if she wasn't pregnant and everything. But like I said, house divided this weekend. So it'll be fun.
Jarrett, talk to me more about your relationship with Sawyer. I know that's that probably adds even more complication to the rooting interest going on. I know you're going to be rooting for the Tigers, but how often do you guys talk? How often do you get to talk ball with him? What is that relationship like?
Yeah, I would say, oh man, I feel old now. 10 plus years ago, maybe something like that. Like him and I started talking a little bit, and he went out to California once. Whenever I was out there training with Jordan Palmer. So I've kind of gotten to know Sawyer throughout the years and kind of see this football journey. And, randomly he'll hit me up, kind of bouncing things off of me, bouncing ideas, that sort of thing. And, he was talking to me during, his whole transfer period and everything, just kind of how I dealt with it and that sort of thing. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be fun watching him. Like I said, he had an amazing year last year. Some really, really good games. Obviously, super athletic. He kind of throw it around all over the yard, and obviously pick off whenever he wants. So hopefully he doesn't torch us too bad. No, I think we got a good defense this year too. So like I said, I think it'll be a little bit punch for punch, but it'll be fun to watch.
It will be. It'll be on Fox, and RG3's on the game, and so that'll be cool. Well, Jarrett, it's fun having you on our new show, and love to have you back sometime. And I hope you have a great year in Denver. And I hope a guy that I do some work with on Colin Cowherd, I hope he doesn't see this, your cap turned around backwards. He seems to obsess about that.
Yeah, he doesn't like I've seen that.
So I'll keep this from him and everything. But that is, it's from Stephenville, Texas, man. As we get ready for high school football Thursday, some games start up, and then Friday. What a fun time of year. Do you ever still find yourself, even that, so far removed from it, at least kind of checking the scores and seeing how everybody's doing back home?
Absolutely. Obviously checking on Stephenville every week. I'm very, very proud to be from Stephenville. We just got a new stadium, which is very, very exciting for us, the Harper House Stadium, Mike Copeland Field. So that would be really exciting for us. And now that, which I shouldn't say this too loud, but now that my wife and I were actually Bearcats, we live in Aledo now, technically. Which, if you would have told me 15 years ago, hey, you're going to be a Bearcat and living in Aledo, I would have said you're crazy. So I feel like I got to check in on Aledo scores too, because I know some people in the area now. But yeah, there's nothing better than Texas high school football and just the fall in general, getting football going. So it's very exciting.
All right. Well, make sure that you meet Jesse Haney in Aledo if you haven't already. Okay, so of course Mac Jones, another NFL quarterback, has been known to show up over there. So yeah, it's surreal having a friend who can build like a indoor barn, quarterback barn, and then I try to explain it to people. They're like, "Oh, is it a little barn or whatever?" I'm like, "Well, no, you can open the hydraulic system and it goes about 70 or 80 yards, so
it's a compound for just sports, which is pretty cool. But that only happens in Texas too, which is
cool. Yeah, it happens if you're extremely successful in the oil and gas world and that kind of thing. But that'll be fun. Well, I'll hopefully, now that I know you're in Aledo, I'll see you out there sometime. Jesse's a great friend, and his son Scotty Hoss Haney is looking to be the starting quarterback for Oklahoma State this year. So he transferred from TCU. So he's come out of the vaunted Aledo program, which I don't know. And Stephenville obviously has had incredible success. Jarrett, I think Aledo's sitting on 11 to 13 state titles now.
Yeah, somewhere in there. I think we're at 6. So we'll get there one day.
We'll get there. Jarrett, thank you, and great. Thanks for spending the time, and good luck in Denver, and hope it goes extremely well this year, and just continued success to you. As man, you're just doing a great job, and we appreciate you having it. And both fan bases will be, think very highly of you. Just know that.
I appreciate that. Thank you guys for having me on again. And like I said, Friday night it'll be a lot of fun. Hoping for a good game. We'll see how it turns out. So, but I appreciate you guys having me on.
You bet. There he goes, Jarrett Stidham on the Matt Mosley Show.